Hey everyone, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for tuning in to today's video that's going to be all about the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale. That is coming up here in a few days, so I wanted to share my picks, but not only talk about the products that I would recommend, but actually use them in a look, which is why we are starting fresh-faced here today. I'm not only going to be going through the products that I would recommend, but I don't have like a pick for every piece of a full face worth of makeup, so I'm also just going to be using things you can generally get from Ulta, things that you can get in the sale, but I honestly haven't been using for long enough to have a super strong opinion about them. But figure if you can see them in action, it might help you make a decision one way or the other. So we're gonna go ahead and get into that. And then at the end of the video, I also wanted to share the things that I am personally planning on picking up, or at least things that are really testing me and I might end up picking up, but I certainly don't need by any means, but felt the need to share them anyway. So stay tuned towards the end for that. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first I'm gonna start with primer, which is actually kind of a big deal for me because I am not a primer person. It has taken me forever to find primers that I really like because I am not a fan of the classic slippery silicone-y feeling primer. And I actually have a whole video of the top 5 primer, I think it's 5 primers that I really like for my combo skin if you also don't like those same slippery primers. And one of my picks in that video is the Smashbox Photo Finish Primerizer Primer and Moisturizer. I really like this. I have to remember how to like walk or talk and apply my makeup. But as the name suggests, it is like equal parts primer and moisturizer. It soaks into my skin really quickly without leaving any sort of residue or anything on top that makes me feel like my makeup's just gonna slip away like those silicone-based primers do. This just feels like it's evening out my skin's hydration because as someone with combo skin, I can occasionally get patchiness with my foundation, like dryness here and then obviously a lot of breakdown down the center. So this feels like it really balances my skin out without really overdoing it. Like it hydrates my patchy, dry areas, but it doesn't make me feel like I'm just going to develop a ton of excess shine throughout my T-zone throughout the day. So I really just like the way it balances my skin. And Smashbox sent me this one, but I've gone through many in the past. They tend to send one of these with any of their skin/foundation boxes, so this is a brand new bottle for me, so I won't be repurchasing it there. Next up is foundation, and I don't really have a good pick for this category. Today I'm going to be using the Dermablend Flawless Creator Multi-Use Liquid Pigments. Mine is in the shade 30N, but to be totally honest, I don't love them. I could never really get into this guy because it laid a little unevenly on my skin. Granted, it's been a while since I've used it. Like I picked this up quite a while ago. But at the time, my skin's changed a little bit since then, but at the time I just remember not really liking how it laid in my mouth area, kind of in my problematic combo skin zones. And I just never really could get into it. So it's not that I absolutely dislike it. I just wouldn't necessarily call it a favorite. And I'm going to add a little bit more just because I want a little bit more coverage. The other foundation that I had tried in the sale that is also just okay for me is the Pure Cosmetics or Pure Minerals, their 4-in-1 pressed mineral powder foundation. I talked about it I have a big roundup that I did at this point, 1.5 to 2 years ago, of my favorite powder foundations. And again, it wasn't bad. It's not my favorite, but it was definitely included in there as an honorable mention. It just happened to be a little bit harder for me to work with as a powder foundation, a little bit drier. So it might be better for an oily skin type. So it's not bad, and certainly check it out if that sounds like it's up your alley. But again, since I can't give it like an absolutely glowing review, it's not something that I would recommend everyone pick up in the sale. So I wanted to zoom you in just so you could get a better idea of the details of how this really wears on the skin. Hopefully you can kind of see how it lays across the texture that I have on my chin. It's still not my favorite in this area, but I do like how it lays on like my smoother. Like it has a nice kind of lit from within glow. But zooming back out now to conceal, this is not on the list for discounts during the 21 Days of Beauty, but it's still available at Ulta. The L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear More Than Concealer. Mine is in the shade Cashmere 360, and I just use the teensiest bit of this in my under eye area, and then a little bit again on my problem zones. And I still have not made up my mind about how I feel about the fragrance here. It's just so heavily fragranced that I'm not normally sensitive to that, but something about both this and how the foundation smells just gets to me a little bit every time I apply it. And my skin hasn't reacted to it, like hasn't broken out or Haven't noticed any kind of sensitivity to it. It's just the fact that it smells like perfume. So strong. But the coverage is really nice. Maybe one day that fragrance will turn on me, but that day is not today. Now to start on the eyes, I'm using Urban Decay's Primer Potion, a classic in the world of primers. It's one of a few that I like, honestly. I also really like the CoverGirl lid lockup. I purchased that quite a few times. But the Urban Decay is definitely one that I will reach for if it happens to be like at the top of my vanity. I know it's one that I can count on to get the job done. Okay, now let's talk about eyeshadow palettes. I actually have two that I am not quite sure what I want to use yet. The first of which is the Buxom Dolly's Wild Side eyeshadow palette. This is one of two like this that they're gonna have included in the sale, I think. Dolly's Wild Side, I've had this for so long, and I think it's a very kind of slept on palette here on YouTube. It's nothing super wild and out there, like it's a cool neutrals palette with a pop of purple, but it's kind of come full circle because I hear more and more people are wanting cool eyeshadow palettes, and I've even said that myself, but lo and behold, I actually already have one in my collection. Granted, it is very purpley mauvey leaning, so it might not suit everyone, but if you are looking for a simple, classic, cool neutral palette with hints of mauve and rosy tones in there, this is a really nice one to reach for, and it does come in the Buxom palettes where you can actually pull these out and replace them. So if you have more singles or you want to get more singles from the Buxom eyeshadow collection, these just pop right out. So you can change them and kind of customize this as you want, or leave it the same, entirely your business. But while I love that, I also really love the Too Faced Chocolate Gold Palette Bar that is also included in the sale because of this is a little bit more out there because it's a bunch of metallics. You do get some matte shades in here, but for the most part, it's a bunch of high shine, high pigment metallic shades. Absolutely love it. I have a tutorial, like this kind of got lost in my new purchases pool for a while, and so I did a video all about that and kind of the overwhelming pace of new releases we have going on here. So I'm kind of tempted to dip back into it again because it is just so big. I'm gonna do it. This is what we're gonna use. First, I'm gonna start with the shade So Bougie right here, just in my crease. Since I don't quite know what I'm gonna do yet, this is gonna give me some time to put my thoughts together. Does anybody else do that, where you're doing your eye makeup and you still don't know what you want to do, so you just vamp for a little bit with this crease shade because you're like, I know I need a mid-tone matte crease shade. So you just go ahead and do that while you collect your thoughts. Do it all the time. I know last time I did something more along the lines of like purpley pinky fuchsia, so maybe I will tap into that green in this palette because that's the other thing that naturally draws my eye, maybe more greeny bronze. Okay, now I am going into the shade Moneybags here, this beautifully rich emerald shade, and I'm putting that on the outer half of my lid. Also, if we're talking about scents, I do feel the need to just mention, in case you're unfamiliar with the chocolate bar line, they all smell like chocolate, which is really nice to some, but you know, if you don't like your cosmetics fragranced, especially some that you're wearing on your eyes where it really has no point to be fragranced, just a watch out, an FYI. And then I'm also going to take that along my lower lash line as well, just the outer half. Now that I have that packed on, I'm going to go in with the shade Famous, which is this really beautiful mid-tone bronze, and I'm going to apply that to the other half of my lid, blending it in with that green right where they meet. Every single shade in this palette just blends in so beautifully with each other. Then I'm also taking my same crease brush from earlier in my eye look and using that to blend it all out throughout the crease. Now for the inner corner, I'm going in with a combination of Chocolate Gold and Rich Girl, first laying down Chocolate Gold and then going in with Rich Girl over top. I just found that Chocolate Gold, while I love how bold it is a little bit too much for my inner corner for this look anyway, and so I wanted to take it down with that Rich Girl, and it just created this really beautiful, interesting, but still bright inner corner highlight. Then just to add a little teensy pop of bronze, I added Old Money in the inner third of my eye just to really contrast a warm copper with that green. Then to deepen that outer corner, I'm going in with the shade Decadent, first patting it in with a small detailer brush, then using the same brush that I used to apply the shade Moneybags to help blend that out to make sure I'm not diluting the shade Moneybags too much. And then I ultimately take it into my crease a little bit, the shade Decadent, I mean, and blend that up into my crease. So it's not just this stark pop of black in my outer corner. It really blends kind of seamlessly into everything. Okay, now let's move on to mascara. This is also not in the sale, but still available at Ulta. It's the L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Paradise. Then same story with my brows. I'm filling them in with the CoverGirl Ultra Fine Brow Pencil. Mine is the shade Soft Brown. This is available at Ulta, but won't be in the sale. Still relatively affordable, and is my absolute holy grail brow pencil. It's just so fast and easy to fill my brows in. On to the rest of the face, I'm going in with Too Faced Chocolate Soleil Bronzer as an honorable mention. I don't think this is the holy grail bronzer it once was for me back in the day when it was hard to find a cool tone matte bronzer, but it still is a really good one, and this is in the sale. So if you are looking for one, they actually have a ton of Too Faced bronzers in the sale, and obviously I have super old packaging, so since changing the packaging, they've also come out with different shades in the Chocolate Soleil bronzer. Mine is milk chocolate, if I didn't mention that before, but there's also chocolate and then deep or dark chocolate. And then they also have one of their split pan bronzers and a golden shimmery bronzer, all sorts of bronzers happening in this collection, but this is the one that I have, so this is what we're using for the day. And I did forget how natural that looks. For blush, I'm dipping into something that I just recently reviewed that I got at Ulta, but is not available in the sale, obviously. It's the Milani Luminoso Glow Palette. If you want to see my full thoughts on this and swatches and everything and tutorials for how I use some of the other shades, I will link to that. Either click the eye or it'll be in the description box below. But for now, I'm just going to go in with these shades right over here, a couple of them, because as you can see, these pan sizes are kind of weird and awkward and small. So I'm just taking, you know, basically as small of a blush brush as I could find, and I'm just going to start on the apples of my cheeks and work it back. Because these are so luminous, I really take it light here on the apples and then heavy up on the back. And then of course go in with some more highlighter. I'll probably go in with one of these two, probably both of those shades there, because that's what my brush will fit in, and I will apply those to the tops of my cheekbones. And now that I reach for the lips that I chose, I realize I didn't have to use that palette on my cheeks, because the lips, I am crazy about these. They're from Nude Sticks, and all of their lip pencils are going to be included in the sale. And some of these are meant to multitask on the lips and the cheeks. And I actually have a whole video reviewing the Melissa Alatorre set from Nude Sticks, and a couple of those are also multi-use in the same way. So I show using them like that in that video. Today I obviously won't, since I just applied my blush, but they're beautiful, they're phenomenal. I mean, clearly I think so because I have this many. And one of the things about Nude Sticks is individually they're kind of expensive, but if you can manage to get them in one of the tins where you get like 5 to 6 pencils, they're some of the most affordable multi-use makeup sticks out there, and some of the best in my opinion. But if you don't want one of those whole sets for whatever reason, you don't want the eyes, you don't want all the shades, whatever the case may be, this is a great opportunity to get, you know, pick some of your lip shades and lip and cheek shades depending on what you go for, because I think they're a fantastic formula. They're super travel friendly. They really do last well both on the lips and cheeks depending on the pencil you get and how you like to use them. And I just have nothing but good things to say about them. So like I said, I have all of these shades that I will swatch up for you here. I'm thinking for this look we should do something more neutral, but man, they really do some beautiful reds. Let's keep it neutral. I'm gonna go in with this shade Well Loved. No, the shade is called Purity, but it is clearly Well Loved. I might need to sharpen it mid-application. But they are just so silky and pigmented with the way they glide on. And especially if you get the matte finish, I find that they are pretty long lasting. They don't dry down, they don't dry your lips out, but there's just something about the way they sit on your lips that makes them minimally transfer. Like I don't see a ton of this coming off with every sip I take out of a glass. It certainly does, it's not totally budge proof, but it's a pretty steadfast formula considering it's not meant to be ultra long wearing, it's not a liquid lip. I mean, they have a good amount of longevity on my lips without drying them out too much, which I really like. Alrighty, so here is the look finished. I hope it was helpful kind of seeing some of my picks in action along with some of the products that are, you know, just generally involved with the sale, but are not necessarily must-have go-tos for me. Now let's talk about some of the things that I may or may not be planning on picking up. I actually have a list right here. So first off is paint pots. So I loved paint pots back in the day. When I first started YouTube, MAC was all the rage. I mean, I was more of a drugstore girl myself and still am, but MAC was kind of, you know, I would feel like I had made it when I could buy MAC. Paint pots being one of them because I've just always had this obsession with cream products, specifically cream eyeshadows, I guess. And so I had my Painterly, Indian Wood I loved, Soft Ochre, all of these, and they just kind of fell by the wayside for me. As more things launched, I tried more things. My paint pot dried out and I tossed it just because I had other things that I was using in its place. But especially now that it is on sale here at Ulta, I figure it might be a good time to kind of pick it back up, give it another try, see how it fares with all of the other new things that have since now been loving and using. And next up is the Desi and Katie palette. I was so tempted to pick this up when it first launched, but I already had, I mean, I love Dose of Colors palettes. I picked up the first Desi and Katie palette, and so this one was like, it was a really hard one to avoid, but I keep reminding myself that I have this one. I have a whole review of the Dose and I Love Sarai collection, and this is also a beautiful palette that I never get around to using, so I'm like, I could get that palette while it's half price, or I could just give this one a little bit more TLC. I don't know, we'll see. Then there is the Nikkie Tutorials highlighting trio from Ofra, and I'm a sucker for a good highlighter, but for as tempted as I am to pick this up because I know how ultra high shine, shimmery, buttery these highlighters are gonna be, I have some of them in the Bohemian Pro palette that I picked up a few months back. I have a video of this as well. I have both of these right here and they are phenomenal. Granted, these are a little bit warmer and they are definitely more for light to medium and even deeper skin tones. I feel like Nikkie especially will have created a trio that has something a little bit lighter and maybe more neutral in here. But the reality is I probably don't need any more Ofra highlighters or highlighters period, but they are in my cart. Those are really it. I don't have a huge long list of things that I want to pick up from this sale, but they are definitely just, oh, they're in the back of my mind, gonna be tempting me throughout the whole thing. Let me know, are those things on your list? Let me know in the comments below. If they are, I hope this video was helpful and that kind of seeing them in a full face, seeing them in action helped you make your decision, made it easier or harder to say yes or no, whatever choice you want to make. Let me know what you're gonna pick up in the description. Nope. I list things in the description. You let me know what you think in the comments. That's how this works. I gotta go. This has been a long video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys.